And my name is Bruce, and you're watching A Girl, a Guy, and a Movie. This is episode 39. We're going to discuss one of my favorite movies from the 1990s, actually, probably my favorite movie from 92, True Romance. And whenever I discussed this movie with Janet, before today, she was like, "What movie is that?" And I'm like, "Okay." So, this movie has a fun past, and Quentin Tarantino got the script from a character that he worked with, and it was 50 pages. And the guy who was like didn't know what to do with it, and so when Quentin gave it back to him, it was 500 pages, and it was like two movies in one because you had the Nick and Mallory vibe going on, but then they had this suitcase experience going on cross country, and it was called Road Trip or something like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And they split the
It's a road trip, all right.
The second movie became Natural Born Killers, and the first movie became True Romance. This movie was sold as I think it was like $30,000 was the final amount that he received for the script, and he used that money to make Reservoir Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Janet, what did you think of Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette in True Romance?
I was really shocked how much I liked this movie. I was not expecting it to be this good. Because, Quentin Tarantino, my favorite movie he made was still the one with Uma Thurman.
Oh, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, no, the
Or
other
Kill
one.
Bill. Wait,
The one with her as a samurai.
Kill Bill, volumes
Kill
1 and 2.
Bill. That's still my favorite one that he made. It was over the top, in every aspect. But this one was like right under that one. I mean, this was very well executed, I think. I think they did an excellent job in picking the characters. I was so shocked every time a star showed up on screen. I was like, wow, this is packed movie. It's a packed movie action wise. Sean Penn, was that Sean Penn's brother, or was that the guy from
Penn?
Yeah, and then it was also I just couldn't believe how many
Tom Sizemore. The two cops were Sizemore and Penn, and
they were awesome. They did such a good job. I was just over. I'm going to have to watch this again and just be able to watch it without having to write notes and things like that. But it was just phenomenal. I was really, really happy watching this movie. I even made me a couple s'mores while I watched this. It was really, really good. But I'll let you start and we'll get into it or whatever. But it was a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for recommending me to watch it.
Well, I fell in love with this movie when I first saw it because I first heard about this movie way back in like 97. And I watched half of it then with my roommate at the time, and I thought, oh, that's pretty good. And I didn't think much of it because, we got a bunch of good movies coming out. It's 1997. We just had 1994. That was my favorite year of movies, Really, really got into the movie again in 99 when I bought a copy of it at discount over at, what was that? Blockbuster Video had a sale. They were getting rid of their old DVDs. So I'm like, and so I grabbed up a whole bunch of DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found a 10-year anniversary edition of True Romance. And I'm like, oh, this is cool because it has a commentary track with Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. And they're sitting down watching it again for the first time in many years because they're kind of busy people. And that was fun to listen to.
I just can't believe I'd never seen this movie because it was action packed movies. I love, I really get into anything that's John Wick or, lots of kickboxing and shooting and fights and car chases and, all that type of stuff. So I'm just really surprised I didn't see this movie. I still can't believe I didn't see it or even heard about it or really. I mean, I heard about the name True Romance, but I never really. I don't know. I just never really thought about it. I just thought it
Yeah,
was really good.
I was amazed too because I wasn't expecting this. My dad watched it with me one night, and he's like, "That movie was really good," and I said, "I love this movie." And then the next night, I came home from work because I lived with my parents at the time, and they had popped the movie into the DVD player. So I thought, when you come home and you hear something kind of on your way to the shower, you hear dialogue you're very familiar with, and you're like, "Mom's watching a Tarantino film." And my mom's like, "This is a Quentin Tarantino movie? Yuck! No wonder it's so violent." And I'm like, "It's not. It's a Tony Scott film." "Oh, okay." And she sits back down again. I didn't have the heart to tell her about it. And she didn't watch the credits, so didn't worry. Didn't
I
worry
mean,
about it.
it was violent. It had a lot of violence in it, but it had a lot less in it than his normal movies. You
Yeah.
know, most of his movies are like from the beginning to end, and lots of blood and over the top gore. You know what I mean? In all his fight scenes and stuff. This one didn't have that. So
Not really.
honestly, if I hadn't seen a whole bunch of other movies made by him, I wouldn't even realize it was him. I mean, it had some tendencies that reminded me of it, like the one really big shootout one
At the very end,
later
yeah.
in the movie. That was definitely him. You could tell by the way it was shot and everything, and the angles they used and things like that. But and the music, all that was definitely him. But the other parts, the parts of the romance and the camaraderie between the different people and things, the scenes with Brad Pitt were just. It was so funny because the whole time I'm watching the scenes with Brad Pitt and Christian Slater, guess what movie was in my head? Interview with the
Oh
Vampire.
my gosh. Yeah, I haven't
So
seen that in years.
it was like swapped roles. It was like a major star with a smaller star. As a backstory scene. You know what I mean? And then
Mhm.
in Interview with the Vampire, you had the major star as the vampire, and then the newsworthy guy is doing the interview, which was a lower on the totem pole type thing. So it was like role reversal for that one scene for me. But that's what popped in my head as soon as I saw them two, interacting a little bit. And they didn't even really interact as much, but Brad Pitt did a good job playing like a pothead.
I
It was
love
very believable. So I thought that scene was really good. But I
it.
jumped forward again. So I'm going to try not to do that tonight. I'm going to try to let you stay on course, and I'll comment as you go along. So I don't, you know,
Oh, you're good.
ruin
Um, this was a script by Tarantino, but he gave it to Tony Scott, and he did not get on set any of the filming. Tarantino stayed away from it. He
Mhm.
thought that would be a better idea to not be involved and not be seen on set. Um, the start of it, starting off in Detroit, the movie feels real murky, real gray. Did you notice that? Did you notice that all the scenes in Detroit
Yeah,
had
the overcast skies and things. But the one thing I would have done different, it'd have been my movie, was the fact that she did the voiceover at the beginning, talking about it, because the whole time, even when she's in peril, she doesn't die, because she's telling the story.
yeah,
So that kind of took away from me, especially when she's in the scene in the hotel, in the fight scene, which was phenomenal, which was so
yes,
exciting. It had you at the edge of your seat, biting your nails or whatever. But it would have been even more if I didn't know whether or not she was going to live or not. You know what I mean?
the
So,
original script she died. The
well,
original script she drives off and she parks the pink car, the purple car on the side of the road, and she puts the gun in her mouth and pulls the gun out, and she puts the gun back in her mouth again, and she's bawling her eyes out, and then it just ends. So
yeah.
you're left to assume that she
Well,
died.
I didn't think she was gonna walk away from the hotel. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
The intenseness of the scene in that hotel was that you're wanting her to, and when she's, fighting him and stuff, you're cheering for her because you want her
Yes.
to win. But because of the voiceover in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, she's gonna get out of here. She's gonna figure a way out. And that kind of took away from it to me. I wish that if that wasn't in there. If that
Well,
wasn't in there, it would have made it a little more intense when she's in her scenes. Because the good thing about it, it wasn't woke. You know what I mean? It wasn't one of
no.
those women that was super powerful and she's jumping off the banisters and whatever. It
Yeah.
was more very realistic by her finding the tool on the floor to use at the beginning and her not going for his stomach or something like that. The way she took him out or got him down was very believable for a smaller person, to be able to overcome a huge, burly guy that was
Yes.
beating the shit out of you. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say a dirty word
Oh,
because I
you're
don't
good.
get in
We're,
trouble.
we're uh, I treat lawyers like pinatas here.
Well, I'm just saying, I know that they're cracking down on the content and stuff. So I haven't read the content, so I might have to just stop showing cleavage and stuff now too. I mean,
We'll lose the audience if we do that.
I was trying to dress in a shirt kind of like the one she wore, and
I
I
like
thought,
the start of the movie when he's at the bar and it's Darla, who this is a Detroit movie.
mhm.
This isn't Detroit.
I
And
think
so
she was
he's
in
talking,
every single movie in the '90s, in the early '90s.
yeah, it's Darla from The Crow,
Mhm.
and he's hitting on her, and he says, "You gonna go see a Chop Socky movie," and she's like, "I don't think so," and then she leaves, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, you lost out,"
Yeah, she's in
and
lots of movies. That actress.
ah, and then he gets in a theater, and after he gets the popcorn spilled on him, and after the girl tumbles over the seat, and she's almost spilling out of her blouse, which is all right. Sorry.
She looked good though, didn't she? In
She's a
this movie compared to being in The Crow. She looked,
yeah. In this movie, Darla looked really good.
yeah, she looked
This,
like either a very rich housewife that's bored with her life, or she a
mhm.
very high class prostitute.
I thought she was more of a high class prostitute.
Well, maybe, but I don't know. I kind of was leaning towards a high end, trophy wife that's hates her life. So she goes and drinks while her husband's out of town. That type of thing is what I was picturing. So, I don't know. They didn't really give any specifics about it.
This movie was shot in like 92. I thought it was made in or filmed and released in 92, but it was released in 93. But the part where she's in the theater with him, and the first thing she does after she sits down, she lights a smoke, and she's like, "Can you catch me up on what I need to know?" And she's like breathing smoke everywhere, and I miss an America that has no ashamedness for smoking in public.
Hmm.
It I don't smoke anymore. My wife smokes, but I hate it whenever people kind of get like they get that anxiety before they're like, I need to go outside and smoke. And you can tell something's wrong, and they're like, come with me, follow me outside. I need to fire one up. We used to smoke indoors all the time.
Hmm. Even on
My
planes,
yes, yeah, I remember that. They had smoking
and on
sections on
Greyhound
planes.
buses, you could smoke.
Yeah.
Because that's how we traveled a lot when my dad would be gone and my mom wanted to go visit relatives. She'd pile all of us girls in the Greyhound bus and she'd smoke like a train. So it's just weird. They don't even put ashtrays in vehicles anymore, or the little things that you poke in to light your cigarettes.
You can buy an ashtray at a truck stop. They will sell you an ashtray. You can stick it in that little windowsill rubberized portion, and it'll fit right
Mhm.
there. And you can sit
Yeah.
there and enjoy your vice. This makes me sad that I miss the old America that I lived in. I really do. Bone says I first saw this movie on VHS from Blockbuster. Um, and it's not because everyone breathes secondhand smoke. I used to smoke all the time and still would separate myself out of respect for other people. Like, oh, you're not smoking? I'm going to go 30, 40, 50 feet away and light one up. Every game store I knew up until 2006
Mhm.
was a heavy smoking environment. Like there was no chill on the lighting up of cigarettes the whole time there.
I remember going to play pinball and in foosball, things like that at the arcade, and people smoking, but it didn't seem like it was so smoky. You couldn't, get around or anything. You know what I mean? Or you were coughing your head off or anything like that. So
Yeah, I don't remember ever coughing
I don't
my head off.
remember it being, overwhelming like they try to make it look like in shows and stuff now. I
Yeah,
remember one time though, this was recently, it seemed like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was walking through the airport and they had those little glass rooms, like sectioned off, and it was
yeah,
so smoky you couldn't even see the people.
yeah.
You could see an arm or an elbow or whatever every so often. It was terrible. It was like they had a fog machine in there or something. So I really felt bad for them. But there was no place else to go. You couldn't go outside because the airports are so huge now. It'd take you half an hour to get to a smoking area.
Yeah, that's a shame. Hey, Stuart Mitchell, how you doing? Um, only complaint I ever had about people smoking when I was gaming, I didn't like. They put the fire near my paper. Says Fat Gamer. Hey, there's Hungar the Strawberryan. This is a new type of beer associated with the Three Daughters Brewing Company somewhere in Florida. It is a military armed forces brewing company makes it. And so San Antonio, of course, has to grab anything that says armed forces. We'll sell this at HEB. So it works. This is a really good light beer. It's got a good taste to it. It's real crisp. Okay, I just kind of miss that, and that's something that I really enjoy. The
A
older
lot of
movies,
smoking in this movie. A lot of people smoke.
lots, a lot of
Yeah,
smoke.
so a lot of the
Um,
characters.
then you meet the fact that like he's got an apparition in his head, or he actually is being pursued by the spirit of Elvis, played by Val Kilmer.
I thought that was just so cool. I really like that aspect of it. And he didn't try to do it over the top like he was like, hubba hubba hubba, that kind of Elvis character. It was like and it was just a silhouette basically because you never really saw his face clearly or anything.
No,
And he was always wearing his glamorous type outfits that he would wear with the big rings on his fingers. But he was like he was there just for him as moral support.
yes,
So we knew the first time he did that he was not normal.
mm-mm.
Just like in Fight Club when you realize that the other persona is not there. It's in his
Yeah,
imagination, or it's like his second personality, or is some type of psychosis or whatever, which I thought was awesome because it just showed you that she was a little on the messed up side simply because we don't know for sure what her background was, but the fact that she ended up becoming a call girl to make her way or whatever showed she had some type of problems, life problems, being able to take care of herself or adjusting to reality or whatever. We don't know what happened to her, but her meeting him, and then they have this instant spark right off the bat to where they think it's love because they're obsessed with each other
hmm
or they're just filling a void. So they had that interconnection, and maybe it was their psychosis. You know what I mean? Their something about their personalities and the way that they're affected by the way they deal with their lives is the reason why they connected. You know what I mean? So I like that aspect of it. I thought that was very intriguing.
yeah. I thought it
Instant
was. I
love,
thought it was
it wasn't just
fun.
lust because he said that he enjoyed her company even when they weren't, you know, dumping each other's bones, and they seemed to interact with each other about different aspects of things that were going on around them when they were communicating. It wasn't just, I want to F your brains out all the time. You know what I mean? It was like actual conversation. So I thought that was really sweet. I liked it.
He's ooh, Bowen is drinking an 8.5% ABV. Hey, Papa Cotton, how you doing, sir? It sounds weird to type. Hey, Papa. Yeah. Okay. Um, when these two they get married and then they're talking and she comes clean with him, he gets dressed up and she's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "I'm gonna go talk to Drexel." And that was kind of like, what? And you get to Drexel's place, and first off, they have the song I want your body," which is old techno, like an old school techno tune. Like you'd hear that in every discotheque in
Hmm.
Europe at the time. And in '95, they were still playing that song on heavy rotation. Uh, that was kind of interesting. He's got his boy Marty in the windbreaker, which the wind never stood a chance in the '90s. I'm just going to say everybody had windbreakers on.
Hmm.
And you meet Drexel, played by Gary Oldman, who looks nothing like the Gary Oldman we know now.
Well, the one thing that I thought was interesting when I saw him and he was interacting, sitting at the table with that bright light, was his one eye color
Hmm.
different, and that was the same in the Fifth Element.
Yes.
So, does he have a one eye different color than the other in real life?
I don't know if he has one or if he has a deformity in one eye, but I now that you mention that, I do remember that now.
Because in the Dracula movie, when he was in Dracula, he didn't have that I know
No.
of, but he might have been wearing contacts for the movie Dracula too. So that was an interesting thing that I was going to look up, but I ran out of time to look it up because I was printing out my other stuff. But that was very intriguing to me. But one thing I did want to bring up was, oh, we haven't got to it yet, so I'll have to wait till you get to that part. I'll try to
Oh
remember it.
no. If you want to, this movie is it's 23, so it is a 31-year-old movie, 30-year-old movie.
Well, I know, but I just always go out of storyline because I get excited when we start talking about one thing, and another thing pops in my head, and I just start talking about the other thing. So I was trying to make sure it's like some type of you know staying in order of the movie.
Fair enough.
But
Uh, the fight scene with him and Drexel, I thought at the time was really good. And that fight scene still holds up 25, 30 years later.
Yeah, it was definitely intense and very good. But the thing is, later on, after he gets the drugs, the people come to him, and I don't know if he was going to buy drugs from them or whatever, but was Drexel the one that was supposed to have the drugs, or did he steal them from the other people? And he's the one that originally stole the drugs.
I think he
Uh,
stole the drugs from Sam Jackson and the other character at the start of the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But I was really surprised to see Samuel Jackson in there for such a short period of time. But he did really good. The whole thing about them, well, eating pussy and all that stuff. I thought that was just right straight down the line, Tarantino type of comments,
Have black people talk about
conversation.
eating pussy, which is something
Yeah.
that you never hear that ever.
Yeah, they never want to do that apparently, but they do like the opposite happening to them, but they don't
Yeah,
want to do the same. So
blowjobs all
that's
day.
why I thought it was
Never.
funny when he was talking about eating ass and stuff. I was
Oh my God,
started laughing my
2022
butt
needs to
off
die.
because that was totally not anything that I was expecting to
Mm-mm.
see coming from those characters in this type of environment. And I thought that was just really funny. So it immediately made me think of Quentin Tarantino. So I don't know why, but I guess there's just not a lot of people talking about eating ass and eating pussy. You know what I mean? In the same small conversation with talking about drugs or whatever, and it was just funny. I just thought it was very funny.
It was a 45-second long scene,
Yeah, it was
and
good long.
and you see Sam Jackson trying to warm himself up, because it's cold outside, and the other guy and him are, chowing down on some Chinese food, and Drex is like, "Hand me the gat," and as soon as that happens, it's like, oh, this is gonna get very, very bloody very quickly,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah, I
it's
was
over and done
surprised
with.
by it. I wasn't expecting him to, kill them and do anything. I To me, it looked like they were all friends, they'd worked together before, they hung out before. So it was just them sitting around and something was going to happen. And when that guy showed up, because we knew he was going over there, right?
Mhm.
So I was expecting for him to come and he's going to be dealing with these four people, but he didn't because he got rid of two of them, or maybe was it three?
2. He got rid of
Okay.
the 2 guys.
So, and the other guy was his backup, his
Mhm.
big burly
The big
bodyguard,
burly.
whatever.
He
But
he was playing by the Biggie Small rules. If
mhm,
you don't have a bigger friend to hide behind, you catch the bullets.
yeah.
And that was what happened with Biggie Smalls. There was nobody bigger than Biggie.
But
Um,
any scene that's going to have Samuel L. Jackson and Gary Oldman in it, it's going to be good. It's going to be the acting's going to be good, the story's going to be good, and action's going to be good. Which was all three. It was everything was in that scene. It had everything you could think of, all piled into one small 3 minutes. It was
mhm.
packed, action packed from beginning to end. That had you glued. You know to pay attention to every detail that you could possibly absorb. And I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it, but I was just shocked that they took him out so quickly because I would never have thought that with that character.
No, not with that actor.
Yeah.
He was over and done very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, Gary Oldman gets taken out pretty fast, and then he
Well, not
grabs.
really. He had quite a few lines.
Yeah,
His tit for tat with Christian Slater,
about 6
and doing
minutes.
the whole thing with the lamp was so irritating. It just made you want to. The fact that Christian Slater's character was able to be there and be so calm and absorb it, you know what I mean, and not react, like I would have said, "What the," I would have got pissed off really quickly by
Yeah,
somebody doing that to me, teasing me and taunting me or whatever. I'm not very good in that type of situation, so I would have been dead really quickly. But his character did very good at reacting to someone that was taunting him. So you don't know whether or not it was because he was taunted a lot as a child or his upbringing or whatever, because we know it wasn't his dad beating him or anything because his
no,
dad wasn't there. So unless it was, some other
stepdad or
loser that,
boyfriend of the
yeah,
week.
that his mom brought in the house or something, but that was all left open for interpretation. But I thought he handled himself really well.
I'd like to welcome our members in chat here. We've been chawing for about a half hour, and appreciate everybody being here. Those of you that waited for us to start, really appreciate that. Six Nation 31 Kings, the Fat Gamer, Bone, one of my great mods. Six
Mhm.
Nation 31 Kings, hello, sir. The Multi Gunman, our northern neighbor. Uh, then Baron G Rock, one of my good friends and former Illinois resident. He's still in Illinois. I'm the former one. And
Mhm.
Bowsette, good to see you here. And anybody else new? Hello, Stuart Mitchell. Hungar the Starvarian. Anybody here got a free bit of peace or prayers to throw at Hungar the Starvarian? He's not doing horribly. He's okay. He's in the hospital though. So you
Oh, I
guys,
didn't know that.
yeah, he does this every few weeks or so. And it just body's wearing out. That's all. If you guys could pray for him and maybe some freshly turned 22-year-old young nurse will give him some company.
A
Uh,
sponge bath would make him
Bunk,
feel a lot better.
Buxom blonde.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. The guy, he's one of us. He's like, I just got my morphine, so my pain's a little better. And Bowser's like, I wish I had morphine. I'm like, well, my wife uses Relief Factor, but that costs like $80 a month. I'm just gonna let
Yeah.
you know. Hey, Fitzjozo. when when they get the drugs and he realizes the situation he's got and he starts putting things together, like I'm gonna go out to the coast. I'm gonna get away from all this crap. He kind of screws up. He got married. That was good. He killed off his wife's pimp. Not bad. but then he doesn't take his dad with him. He should have packed dad in the car and said, "We're going on the road." No, this is my good friend Janet. My wife is in the other room. This is what Janet and I enjoy doing. My wife enjoys her hobbies, and being online in front of a camera, no bueno. You'll hear my wife occasionally, and it'll happen tonight probably. Hey, Shadow and Sun. So he goes and visits dad, and him and dad talk, and after his dad clears some things up and goes and finds out what exactly his son did, which is he killed a drug mule, or a drug pusher from a local bad club. We could say mafia, I guess.
Yeah.
And dad's like, I think the more I think about it, the more I hear about it, I'm really proud of you for getting rid of that guy. Go ahead, here's some money, duck out of town for a while, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, I thought that that was one of the kindest Dennis Hopper scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him as a character that was kind and gentle, not not violent, not wanting to kill, rip everybody's heads off or something, doing something bad. He was very. It was a good scene because it was nice getting to see him in a hero type role, if that makes sense. Because basically, at the end of the scene, he was trying to be the hero for his son. So I thought that was very moving. It was a moving scene for me. It was sad, but it was a very big character arc for somebody that had left and abandoned him, basically. So I really enjoyed that scene. I thought it was very rewarding to get to see somebody step up to the plate, even though it was, he knew that once they came that they weren't going to leave him alive. So he held out as long as he could and didn't want to, and he didn't betray his son. So, which I thought was very, very good. It was a very heartwarming scene for me, even though it was, a lot of violence and stuff in it. And Christopher Walken was kick-ass as always. That's very good scene.
That repertoire between Hopper and Walken.
Mm-hmm.
If we ever take our live streams to Rumble or to Odyssey or to Pornhub, that you're going to hear that speech from my table, because my players say that a lot. They grab lines out of the speech between Christopher Walken's character and Dennis Hopper.
Mm-hmm.
They love it. They love that exchange as they go through what happened with the Moors and the Sicilians. I loved every minute of that, and that's one of the parts of the movie that I will commonly watch this movie and then rewind that scene again, even though Dennis Hopper still dies.
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch it all over again because I love that scene.
Yeah, it is a very good scene. It's very intense. It's very because you don't really know where it's going to go. And then when he asks for the cigarette and it calms him down and he's really thinking about it, plus his background as a police officer, he knew how to toy with his
mark
interviewer. Or his mark, or whatever you want to call it. So I just thought he did really good because he knew he realized when they cut his hand. At that moment, I think is when he realized that he wasn't going to be leaving there alive. So he might as well, toy with him as much as he could because, that was going to be, because he knew that once he toyed with him and said what he was going to say, that he was going to lose his temper basically and take him out without having any new information, which it worked. So basically he won. He won over Christopher Walken's character by toying with him enough to get him to just lose his temper and take him out, which he knew is what was going to happen. So I thought that was a very good character arc for him and a very entertaining scene. with, and the fact that they were in a teeny tiny trailer and able to film it with those four people, and who knows how many other people were in there to actually film that scene.
Yeah.
They did an excellent job for everyone to stay very calm and laid back for that scene, that sitting in the chairs facing each other. I just thought that was just so I don't know, I can't even pick the word that
Iconic.
I would choose for it. Yeah, it was very iconic. It was a very memorable scene that I think I think every single person that watched this movie would remember that scene. That was like one of the strongest um, scenes when it came to dialogue, for sure, I thought.
When Walken is trying to recall all the various tells that a liar has, and then Hopper is like, "I got you," and you can see that on his face right there.
Yeah.
That was where I think Hopper knew, yeah, I'm going to win this argument. I might not live after this, but I wasn't going to live anyway.
Yeah, he knew he wasn't going to, so it didn't matter. So he wanted to go as close to the top as he could, to where, without, actually saying, F your wife, F your son, the same
Yeah.
cliche that everybody uses, but go to the top with something he knew was just going to, like, taking the knife and sticking it in his back and turning and just spinning it around, digging in on him, to get as much as he could before, to get that satisfaction of knowing he outdid him. You know what I mean? Knowing he was going to die, but that he got him. You know what I mean? He took him down in front of his men too. That's very degrading.
The part that I like probably the most about that is that after the shooting of Chris Hopper, of Dennis Hopper, one of the Italians turns to the other Italian, "What do you say?" And the response that they give is fantastic.
Yeah.
This is
Because
not a
they
movie
couldn't.
you should watch on television, by the way, because they'll edit the shit out of that conversation between those two men, and you'll not get the full context. It will be something that you will have to search on YouTube for. And don't worry, lots of people have uploaded that 10-minute conversation between these two. It's a great
Mhm.
scene.
Yeah, it is very good. It's amazing though that YouTube hasn't flagged that,
I
just
know.
for what the content is about and what they're saying. I just can't believe that they've gotten away with it, because that's a scene right there. That is an iconic scene, simply for the fact you won't ever see anything like that in another movie. Not the way things have changed now in Hollywood with the wokeism type thing. You won't ever see that again. Nothing like that. At least I
Well,
don't think so. Not while I'm alive.
yeah.
It'll be a while before they make anything like that again. But it was definitely good. I mean,
So the Italians make their way across the states, following Clarence and Alabama,
yeah,
and
because they found the phone number.
the phone number's on their fridge. "Hey, boss, I'm going to make you very happy,"
Hmm.
and that's what happens. That's how they get found. And the only reason why the mob finds Dennis Hopper's trailer is because the kid, when he's fighting with Drexel took out his driver's license and was going to hand it off to Marty. "Go to this address. I can guarantee you Alabama's dumbass is there. Bring her
Yep.
dumbass back."
And you could tell when he was holding it up to that bright light that it was a driver's license or an ID card of some subtype, even though they didn't zoom in or anything. And
Yeah.
that's how he started laughing about his name.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we knew he had that. And when he left, I went, oh shit, he left his stuff at the scene, because I don't even think he got his wallet. I think, because remember, they took his wallet and he was covered in blood and beat to hell, and he had just crucified those two people basically.
It was
Um,
great.
yeah, it was a really good scene, but I was like, oh shit. Now when the cops go there, see, what I was thinking was, when the cops go to the scene, they're gonna know he was there.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about it being the other drug people, because I didn't really realize he wasn't the one that owned those drugs, that maybe the other people were the ones trying to steal his drugs or something. See, so I was thinking the police were going to come, the dirty cops or whatever, and know he was there simply because he left his driver's license there in his wallet.
So Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette as Clarence and Alabama go cross country, and you are in. Suddenly, it's California. The sun is shining. They're playing some Aerosmith on the Aerosmith pump. Take
Yeah.
Me to the Other Side is like if I listed off the soundtrack to the soundtrack is as iconic as the cast. And they meet up with Michael Rappaport. Now, Michael Rappaport used to be a good actor. He's still probably not a bad actor, but he's a little bitch. And got Josiah Rises, one of my favorite YouTubers from the Geeks and Gamers guys. He loves to get into the Hollywood woke tards, and he puts them on blast and makes a video. And Michael Rappaport got a couple videos dedicated to him from Josiah, and I enjoyed that. But Michael Rappaport is supposedly a childhood friend of Clarence's, and so Clarence goes out there to Hollywood. You meet Michael Rappaport. He's in a studio getting ready to do a rehearsal scene. Janet's probably very familiar with this. And they give you your script, and they're like, okay.
Well, you already have it before then. You're supposed to already have memorized certain things depending on what it is you're going to read for.
Yeah. The script that he reads for is for T.J. Hooker, and it was for a scene where T.J. Hooker jumps on the hood of a car. So maybe it's between like 1988 and 1989. Maybe this movie's before that in the 86 era. I don't remember when T.J. Hooker went off the air. I just remember when I did watch it, T.J. Hooker.
I never did watch it.
He'd jump on a car. He'd jump on a hood. And like you have the stuntman as William Shatner clinging onto the hood of a car, usually some late 70s boat of a vehicle like what I used to drive. And
did you think that was interesting, though, the fact that they said T.J. Hooker and they kept calling him Captain? They never said his name.
Because at the time, you couldn't really say other actors' names, or you could, but you'd have to throw them money for shouting them out, I guess.
Oh,
a lot of things have changed.
I was like, why aren't they just saying it, saying his name?
They're calling him the Captain because everybody loved Captain.
Yeah. So I just thought that was cool. That whole thing. And the woman that did the supposed interview with him, that I'm telling you, that was so realistic. It's like, yeah, whatever.
I'm driving. And then he looking at the script, I'm driving. And he's like, get him, shoot him. And he bungles his read. And she, within 3 seconds, she's out of her chair, takes the script. Thank you very much. We're going to call you. You're a very fine actor. Have a good day. Because
you got to remember, they see hundreds of people a day for all the different characters. And they just put a check mark on it and on their paper they have on their desk. And that's it.
So
really fast.
When Rappaport gets home, you find out that living on his couch is Brad Pitt, who had no lines throughout the entire movie. Every single thing that Brad Pitt says is
ad-libbed.
It's all ad-libbed.
I just loved this is what I was going to talk about earlier, was that he had one of those little bear honey, the honey bear that you have do it. He had made that into it. It had a thimble.
Yes.
Stuck down in there and he's smoking it as a bong. I just thought that was hilarious. Now, I don't know who did it, whether it was the prop people or whatever that came up with that idea to do it, because it was a cheap, easy way to make a bong. So it was, as I've seen people do it with, the weird, I think it was the Pepsi bottles that had the two balls, that was like set together. I've seen so many people make bongs out of that type of bottle, but I never saw anyone ever, until I saw this movie, make one out of one of the little bears that you have honey in. I thought that was really funny. Very cute idea. That was original, definitely original, because I've never seen anything like that before in a movie, but it was funny. And Brad Pitt did look like a stoner to me, the way he was dressed and everything. Yeah.
This was before or after Thelma and Louise? Let me check something real quick.
I don't know. The thing is, you could definitely tell in the scene. That's what I said. The first thing that popped in my head was the interview with the vampire, because
Yeah.
during this movie, Christian Slater was higher up on the totem pole, I think, than Brad Pitt's character or Brad Pitt's name. And then later on, Slater had dropped down in the notches and Brad Pitt had gone up. So it was like reverse roles, where you had the secondhand character and the star, and that's what popped in my head when I saw the two together, was Interview with the Vampire. So.
Mr. Mitchell gives a fact. Baines Malika sus de le dom ideas from Lacme by Leo Delibes. And he'd use this, Tony Scott had used this in a movie called The Hunger, which I now need to see. That music soundtrack is just amazing.
I've never seen that movie.
Neither have I. I'm putting it on the list.
Yeah, you have to put that down.
So you get to meet all these people, and then they make the call to Bronson Pinchot's character, who you find out what a slimy little bastard he is, because him and Michael Rappaport had theater class together. And that was kind of interesting to see that, because at the time, Pinchot was in a show called Perfect Strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Balky Bartakamus.
Well, he always plays the same type of character, though. He's very, when you see him, you pretty much know that, with the sweater tied over his shoulders and the, I don't know, that type of, snooty kind of attitude. Yeah, he's really good at those type of characters. So I can see why he gets picked to do that.
I was amazed to see Bronson Pinchot at it, because I'm like, it's 99 when I'm watching it, actually getting to watch it from start to finish for the first time, and I thought, wow, this is so good, and I was kind of surprised that I'm recognizing all these people. I was 24 at the time. I didn't give a shit about Hollywood. I really still don't, but everybody that was big in the 90s is in this movie.
And yeah, so, it was a lot. There was quite a few. I was really surprised how many stars were in this movie. I'm still really shocked, and in a way that almost gave it away to me too, that Quentin Tarantino had something to do with it, because he's got a good way of getting all his buddies to all pony up to be in his movies.
His casting agent is amazing. I don't know who he taps or how he taps people to do things, but he does an amazing job to pull in some talent for any film he makes. And Michael Rappaport is trying to just get rid of this suitcase for his buddy, and when he sees it, he kind of goes for a sample. I noticed that like the first and every time since then. But then they get a hold of Elliot, Elliot Blitzer is the Bronson Pinchot character, and they take him on a roller coaster, which I immediately recognize that roller coaster, not because I've been to Magic Mountain, but I've been, I can make a bong out of my own elbow. That's some talent. Indeed.
A lot of burns on you.
Yeah.
You do that.
They take him to Magic Mountain and they ride this thing that was brand new for the 1991 year, I want to say, the Amazing Screen Machine. And the Amazing Screen Machine had a mirrored coaster. The same coaster was built over in Great America, just north of me when I was living in Illinois, up at Gurney. And that was an amazing 7-inversion roller coaster. And they filmed that portion of it within 2 days. And the fun part about that is Michael Rappaport didn't tell anybody on the first day of filming. And so when you watch that, watch Michael Rappaport, because he's in the second row. And on the first day of filming, he's not telling anybody. He's just trying to fight this, and he's turning various shades of green that I have on my paint desk back there.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I love roller coasters.
Me too. There's one right down the road I need to go visit. They just put a new dive coaster in. And then
You talking about Six Flags?
Yeah, Fiesta, Texas. They just put a new dive coaster in. A dive coaster is one that they kind of like sit at the edge of the drop and
Yeah, that's
hold
the
it.
Aquaman, right?
No, this is Dr. Demento, a dive coaster. It's the same.
Aquaman one wasn't open yet when I went to Six
Okay.
Flags, which I want to do. It's got the water at the down in the bottom of it because it's across from the Hall of Justice. Because I just went to Six Flags this last summer.
Not the one over here. You're talking about the one over Texas, right?
Yeah, Six
Okay.
Flags over Texas.
Over Texas is about 4 hours north of me. I'm talking about Fiesta,
okay.
which is about 10 minutes from where I sit right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
My hand is spazzing out. Sorry, hand. Yeah, Michael Rappaport's a douchebag. We trust me, I can't stand that guy. I like him in this movie because I see myself as him, and actually his character is the Quentin Tarantino insert character because Brad Pitt is every roommate Brad Pitt ever had before, or not Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt's every roommate that Tarantino had piled into one obnoxiously useless human being. Sits on the couch all day, watches TV shows, smokes way too much pot. Yeah. But that's the insert character. Michael Rappaport is Quentin Tarantino. And that's Andrew Schultz's future. Wow. not a bright future at all. Yeah. We had the Ninja up in Six Flags St. Louis, although it's really not St. Louis. It's more like further down, an hour outside of St. Louis. It's just the closest big city.
Yeah.
The Ninja's over there. That's not a bad roller coaster. It's an aero coaster, so there's a little bit of head banging on there. The Scream Machine and the Shockwave is an aero coaster, and you have these two huge restraints that come over your shoulders, and the entire time when you're hitting any like speed over 40, your head's just rocking back and forth. If you have any earrings in, they're just bloody. You've got a bloody neck the rest of the day.
Yep.
But
yeah, it's like the Hulk ride at whatever that one is in Orlando.
Oh,
Universal.
Universal.
It's a Hulk ride. Man, that'd tear you up.
I don't like roller coasters like that. I really prefer Philadelphia toboggan coaster trains, and typically you'll find those on old Woodies.
Yeah, I love the old wooden roller coasters. Those are my favorite.
And then you also have Rocky Mountain coasters, which they redo the Woodies. And so over Texas, you have the Texas Giant. That was the first roller coaster they redid that they've done. And then whenever a couple years later, they redid the Iron Rattler here in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Inversion. So you have Woodies now that have loops and corkscrews.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, and you can hear them creaking and everything. That's what makes them so exciting to me.
If you go to Cedar Point in Ohio, and I've not done this yet, but I've watched a friend's video where he was there filming as they're in line, and as they're at Steel Vengeance, which has 4 inversions on it, and it's a very long coaster, 5,000 plus feet. You can watch the roller coaster track sway 3 or 4 feet as the trains go overhead. It's great.
Yeah. It's scary.
That's what's fun. If you're going to talk about Knott's Berry Farm, you have to talk about fried chicken. Come on now. That was the entire reason they have Knott's Berry Farm, is because the wife had a good fried chicken recipe. We're going to have roller coaster chat now. So they go on the Scream Machine, and Elliot Blitzer realizes just that this guy's serious and he wants to do stuff. And so he takes a sample bag back to his boss. But on the way back, he gets caught by the cops speeding. And then his girlfriend, for the moment, pops up from his lap.
Was it his girlfriend, or was it just some girl that he picked up?
We all know what she was. And they get into a fight over who gets to hold the cocaine bag, which explodes all over him.
To hold it, yeah.
Oh my God,
Because when she was giving him the blowjob, he was driving it really fast, down the road, and the cops turned the lights on. When she popped back up, she seemed very high class to me. So I was thinking she was just a high class prostitute. And then when he was telling her to put the drugs in there and she was saying no, see, his girlfriend would have said, okay, she would have, put it up her dress or down her shirt or in her bag. But the more she denied that she was going to do it, the more I think she was like, I'm a prostitute. I ain't going to do it. So basically, that's what I was thinking. But I don't know. I mean, I'd have to do some more research because they didn't really tell you,
I don't think it's
She
right.
threw him under the bus for sure. So
She took him by the waistline of his underwear and chucked him in.
yeah, she threw him out, and then when she busted the bag on his face, I thought that was just hilarious. Right when the cop was walking over there, so yeah, he was freaking out. He did a good job though too at making it believable that he was like really starting to freak out.
Yeah,
that he had that bag on him. So,
and I forget. It's about this time that she goes back to the hotel and she wants to swim for a minute and then go get dressed for him, and he's going to go grab food. And it's when we meet James Gandolfini, who we see for a brief second in time in the trailer.
mm-hmm.
And that is the best man versus woman fight on film I've seen. I don't think there is a better one up until like Kill Bill.
Yeah, I was rooting for her the whole time, and every time he'd hit her, I'd flinch, whatever.
Yeah.
And but she was stubborn, man. I'm like that a little bit, but I don't know how much of a beating I would actually be able to take. I mean, I really don't. But when the part right when he was talking to her, and then I'm thinking that she's had enough, and she's about to spill the beans, and then she just goes. I was like, "Go, girl!" Like that. You're rooting for her. So I just thought that was an excellent scene. I thought they did a really good job at making it seem very realistic. And when she took a beating, I don't know if a real person could. You know, I've known a few women that were beat by their husbands or whatever, and 3 or 4 hits and they'd be unconscious. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if in real life a woman could do that, but they really made that scene. It did seem very realistic the way that, like he was telling her to spin around. I knew when he told her to do that, I just knew he was going to punch her lights out. But it was a very, very dramatic scene, and it was very realistic to me as a woman watching it. But I was rooting for her the whole time. Just like I said though earlier, that I knew she wasn't going to die because she was doing the voiceover at the beginning. So, I assumed that somehow she's going to figure out a way to get out of it, or somebody was going to come busting in the door. And that's what I kept thinking, that someone's going to come busting in any second and stop it. But it kept going on and on. I was like, geez, she's not going to take much more. She's not going to live. So it was a very, very sad. The whole thing was just gut wrenching for me.
I was very impressed with it. And when you watch the commentary track with Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette,
Mm-hmm.
she's telling you the name and which scenes the stunt doubles are in the
Mm-hmm.
entire time throughout that fight. She's like, I was not in any danger during this scene. They had me doll up, they had me recover from being punched or being kicked, and then they would do the inertia or kinetic scene, and then I'd go back. And they kept doing that, which
Mm-hmm.
they would always do that. It seemed like the Patricia Arquette took no punches or kicks. She didn't even have to pretend, but she has a really good stunt double that could put on a wig and had mostly the same build. And this is
Mm-hmm.
before Zoe, I forget her name, but it's not Zoe Quinn, guys. Don't think about that. But this is there was a movie that was called Death Proof, that there's a lady called Zoe in it, and she's a real life stunt girl. She actually, the part of that movie, she's on a car hood with her friends giving her a belt to hold on to with each hand and pulling it taut. So she's driving, or they're driving her down the road, and she's hanging on the hood like that. But it's not her. She's not in this movie. It wasn't until 99 or 2000 that Quentin Tarantino started using her, and she was used quite a bit. She's a very good stunt woman. But Patricia Arquette gives you all the names of the various stunt people throughout the scene. If you watch the commentary track, very worth watching. That if you enjoy this movie, the commentary track's just like icing on the cake, icing on top of the icing on top of the icing. It's like if you have bacon flavored mayonnaise and you have bacon and you dip it. Anyway,
so bad for you.
yeah, so it's really you have that scene there. He takes her to go get bandaged up, and then they have the big meet, and you get to meet Saul Rubinek, and Saul Rubinek is kind of a dickhead, and he plays a dickhead. And Tony Scott gave him a few pointers on how he wanted him to act throughout this scene,
Mm-hmm.
but Tony Scott had just wrapped up work with, I think, a small Joel Schumacher project. And Joel Schumacher was not my favorite director. Rest in peace, bud. But
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of a douche. And they gave these acting cues to Saul Rubinek on how to act throughout this entire setup, throughout the entire movie. And apparently he hits it on the head because Tony Scott loves Saul Rubinek, or loved
Yeah.
him. So it was a very interesting character. Oh yeah, and then before that, Pinchot gets busted by the cops, and he meets the two greatest cops in the world, played by Chris Penn.
I love that team, them two as partners. It was so uh the choice for those two it's just I don't it was perfection.
Yeah,
The casting person who picked those two to play the two cops to bounce off each other, it was so good. They did such a good job. It was so good.
yeah.
I
I
love that.
I really love the Cody Nicholson, Nikki Dimes uh, back and forth that you have,
Hmm.
and I'm I'm drawing a blank on who the cop was. They're the cop boss, but
I don't know.
holy
I've seen him
shit!
before, but
I'll
the
pull him up
them
real quick because he's in Death
yeah,
Wish 3.
because the two actors playing off each other, the excitement behind how stupid this guy was and what a pussy he was and how he was just spouting all this information, because he didn't want to go to jail, that he was a perfect person, a perfect pawn to strap on a microphone and get him to give up the information, because all they could think of, you could tell, was them being promoted and moving up in their jobs.
Ed
So
Lauder.
yeah, they just thought this guy was like their golden ticket to fame, basically to be the top dogs for the
Mhm.
police officers.
We
So
just want the credit. We want the credit for the bust. Just give us credit. You guys can go do the bust. We want credit.
we don't care who you bring in. We don't care any of that, because this is ours and we want to get the credit. So you could tell, and they were both adamant about it. So they did a great job at making it that way. So I just loved it. I thought that scene was really, really good. The way that they bounced off each other to get their boss to give them the information they needed so that they could go do the sting operation, basically. So I thought it was really good.
And I was just having so much fun watching this movie at this point because it's building up to the final act, the climax of the film, and you get to watch all these characters come together. The setup, they go into they go into Saul Rubinek. He's playing the director Lee Donowitz,
Mhm.
who in the Quentin Tarantino movie lore is the grandson of Donowitz. I believe he's that's not the Bear Jew, but that's one of the jackasses from Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah.
Part of the interconnectedness of the Quentin Tarantino films, and so he has that. He's the grandson of that, and he filmed this movie called Body Bags, or Put Him in a Body Bag, and it's when they go in the apartment, or the manor, they're watching the dailies from this movie he made, which are actually the dailies that Platoon. They were watching the dailies from the movie Platoon. The director of Platoon allowed Quentin Tarantino to have these, like, here you go, here's some extra stuff I've got. You loop it, and here's how it'll work. And so everybody's sucking this guy's dick, telling him like, "Oh my god, my veteran uncle loved this movie. He said that's about as real as it gets." And so him and Lee Donowitz, Clarence and Lee Donowitz are basically there just chiming up each other. And Donowitz, after like 3 minutes of getting comfortable and friendly, "You're the actor friend of Elliot Spitzer. That's great. And you're the wife I need to talk to." And he takes them outside, and they come back in. And 3 minutes later, they're like, "We need to see Dr. Zhivago." Mind you, Elliot Spitzer has been wearing a fucking wire the whole time.
Yeah.
And the scene before this in the elevator, as Clarence is threatening instant death, and your brain will splatter on the side of this elevator because if we get fucked, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
You're the first one I'm gonna kill. That's what he said.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cops are in there like, "Come on, Elliot, you got this, you got this." And
Don't be a wuss.
Chris Penn's like, he's gonna shoot him. And Sizemore's like, "He ain't gonna do it, he ain't gonna do it." And then something in his voice, in Clarence's voice, is like, "Oh god, he's gonna kill him."
Yeah. I thought it was really good because I mean, it seemed very realistic about what you go through when you're doing a stakeout. You know what I mean? And listening to them making the recording, waiting, chomping at the bit for them to say the right words so they can go and make their bust, right? So they did a really good job, having the four guys in the room, pacing the room, listening in, waiting for the right things to come. And when it finally does come, they're all excited about going over there to bust in. And I thought that whole bringing each group of people in little by little, you know what I mean, to interact with each other. I thought that was just, it was a nail biting scene because you knew that any second this other group's going to be there. And then any second this other group's going to be there, who's going to take who out, that type of thing. I just thought it was really good. And the fact that they had Patricia Arquette sitting there on the couch in the middle of it, I was just trying to figure out how in the heck is she not going to die? When all this stuff starts, the shit hits a fan, how is it? And they did a phenomenal job at having all that stuff, the feathers. I mean, the place was just covered with feathers. And, and the saddest scene in it to me, over the top from the Christian Slater part, was the one last cop that gets shot towards the very end, and then sits on the couch and dies, because you didn't really get to know that one character, but you felt bad because he was just there to, do his job. And he ends up, that was his last day at work, basically, even though the other guys died. But I don't know, that one guy dying to me was just more emotional than some of the other ones that died. And then the fact that Christian Slater got hit, by the way it looked to me when he was laying on the ground, it didn't look like a mortal wound to me. It looked like I was just kept waiting for him to wake up because it seemed like it was like he got grazed or whatever by a bullet.
Yeah, they were going to kill him in the original script, but the more Scott's filming this movie, the more he realizes, like, I can't kill these kids off. I got to keep them. And so Tarantino's like,
he wanted a happy ending.
What's going on? And he's like, I love these characters. I don't want them to die. I want them to go off in the sunset. They're good. They're good kids. And Tarantino and him looked at each other, and so he watches the film, and Tarantino's like, you know what? In my original draft, yeah, it would have been better if they died. But in your script for your movie, perfect. It's perfection. And that's one of the few times where you see somebody who's written something and they actually can appreciate what somebody else's interpretation is. They're like, you know what? For your changes, that works for this.
Mhm.
and I did like that.
Well,
I
that was one of the things that uh, was interesting when you told me that that he wrote the script, but he didn't go on set and push, his point of view, which is very good because a lot of script writers want to do that, even though they don't usually get that opportunity because they have a script supervisor that goes with the script and does the breakdown for each day's filming to make the print out the small little script sheets that they're going to pass out to all the actors and stuff so that they know what scenes are going to be filmed because they don't always follow the script in order. So you might find like 5 locations in one state, and you film those scripts, those sections. And let's say you're in at the beginning of the movie, you're in Texas, and then in the middle of the movie, you're in Texas, and at the ending, you're in Texas. So those 3 of the scenes would be the ones that you're going to film. In Texas, and then the other ones are going to be filmed on a sound stage or whatever. So it's broke down that way and printed out per day. And then when they do that, they have to find all the props that are going to be used for the prop people and for the makeup and wardrobe or whatever. So each it's a huge task to get all that stuff done because for the continuity of it, depending on when if you have to refilm a certain part, and let's say the person had 2 bullet holes in the chest or whatever and had blood coming down, you have to have photos, and that's what they do. They'll take photos, and then later on, if they have to refilm a certain part because the was damaged or whatever, they have photos to go from so that the costume and everything looks this is close to the original as the other one, so that when they put it together and they edit it, it isn't so like, oh my God, look, he's got shot in the back this time, or he really got shot in the front.
yeah,
So it's all the continuity purposes, and that's how you don't see it during the awards, but you'll have the script supervisor, winning an Academy Award, or a prop, supervisor or whatever, depending on what's going on, because of the making sure that everything's all flows,
mhm.
through the thing. So I just thought that was really good because I thought they did an excellent job. I loved her clothes. I thought she was adorable. She did an excellent job in her as her character as the bubbly blonde, with but not so stupid that she seemed unrealistic. You know what I mean? She just seemed like uh, uh, a young country girl that bit off more than she could chew in life, and she just lucked out to end up with somebody that actually wanted to treat her good, and that was as happy to meet her as she was to meet him. Someone who's very accepting and available at the same time. So
Oh,
I thought that was a great, great parts for both of their characters, or the actors for those characters.
I can see that. Um, the shootout happens. There's a bunch of big people that are in this shootout here. You've
Hmm.
you've got a bunch of my favorite Italians that are in a bunch of good mobster films. You've got Enzo Rossi, and that he's later on. He's a young boy, but you've got a Vic Argo is in it. You got Paul
Hmm.
Ben Victor. Uh, Michael Beach is the cop you're talking about. He plays Officer Wurlitzer. He's the one that gets
Yeah.
shot in the stomach.
Hmm.
Um,
I've
you've
seen
got
him in other movies too.
yeah, he's in a lot of films.
Hmm.
Like I said, this movie, if you're in this movie, you're in a lot of movies. Kevin Corrigan plays Marvin, and
Hmm.
that character had gone through a couple different actors at the point that they had spanned this out or started to work on this. You got you just got like the perfect shootout. This is like
It almost seemed like there was like 20 people,
yeah,
on
there,
the set at one time, just
yeah,
actor wise.
that's a
And
chunk of
yeah,
people.
that is a huge amount of people, but it
You
worked
didn't have to even
well.
move.
I mean, it really worked well at the flow about the way the scene flowed.
Hmm.
as the camera went around the room and people were being shot. Because you got to remember, when they're facing that way, they shoot all the scenes facing that way. Then they have to stop, clean up the mess, turn it around, make it look like it's never happened, and then shoot all the scenes facing the other directions, all the way around the room that way. You don't just fly around the room
No.
and film it that way. So and then it's all edited together. You see an excellent job in editing for this scene, considering there was probably uh, 4 different angles, both direction, in a cross shape
Yeah.
that they filmed from the center of that room. The coffee table scene, basically is where the camera people were probably sitting. When you saw the scenes in certain ways to have the coffee table there, then when the other way they would have the coffee table be gone, and that's where the cameraman would be sitting and the director in the chair, spinning around back and forth, moving and filming it. So they did a great job, excellent job for that whole scene, considering how many people were in that shootout to make it click all together like they did. I thought it was excellent.
I as the scene unfolds, and Elliot Blitzer is like, he's everybody comes in with their guns drawn, the cops first, the mobsters second. Blitzer asks Nikki Dimes, "Hey, Dimes, can I go? You guys are all doing your thing here. This is where I've done my job. I'm going to leave." And Saul Rubenek's Lee Donowitz is like, "What the fuck? How do you know his name? How does he know your name?" And then it just dawns on him. He puts it all together real fast. And
Because and he realizes the one person that he thought was he couldn't trust was the guy bringing the drugs, and he ends up being the guy that's been his right hand man for years,
yeah,
is the betrayer. Yeah, thought that was good.
and the Saul, that scene with Rubenek, probably my favorite acting that he's ever done. I love Saul Rubenek. I think he's a great actor.
Hmm.
He's good in Family Man with Nick Cage and Taya Leone, and he was good in Captain America.
Wasn't he
Oh,
also in the Boys,
he might have been, but I haven't watched
playing
Boys.
a real asshole type movie producer or whatever? Because he was doing uh, I can't remember his name right this second. Not Homelander, but the other guy they were trying to bring in to, get rid of Homelander because he was supposed to be stronger than him, Soldier
Yeah,
Boy or whatever. That guy, the guy that was trying to, wasn't that the same actor?
I think so.
Okay, well, I was going to say, because he usually he's played quite a few movie producers in different movies and TV shows that I've seen him in. So I thought that was very interesting.
But once everything clears up, Christian Slater comes out of the bathroom and he catches a bullet damn near instantly. He just like kind of sticks his head out and he's wanting to get into the action, it looks like, and he gets his action and he's knocked to the ground. He's KO'd for the moment. He might be dead. And then his wife crawls over to him, and Alabama's examining, like trying to shake him, and everybody's still shooting at each other. And there's a scene where in the original version, she picks up the gun and she shoots Nikki Dimes, played by Chris Penn.
Yeah, she does shoot him.
And
She's sitting by Christian Slater on the floor, and it's his gun.
yeah, it's his gun. And there's a couple different edits where Nikki Dimes still dies, but it's not by her. And they've shown that a lot on various cuts and edits on Spike TV and other places that have aired this. Because this movie has a couple different edits out there, but the way that he dies really isn't important because he wasn't supposed to live.
Yeah.
But I really thought that whenever he goes down, I'm like, I was like, I liked his character not as much as I liked Tom Sizemore's character, but I really liked his character in this movie.
Hmm. Yeah, I thought he did a great job. I
And
thought both of them did a great job playing the police officers. that the only ones in there basically that weren't crooked,
Yeah.
or corrupt. They were doing it because they really wanted to do it, and take this big guy down.
And they didn't care if he was a big Hollywood movie producer. They wanted to get him busted, and they wanted to get the bust on their record because that's what they do.
Yeah,
And it
good
would probably
cause.
would have happened if this would have gone to court. More than likely, uh, Lee Donowitz would have walked because he's supposed to be Joel Schumacher, and Joel Schumacher had fuck off money, and he would have spent fuck off
Yeah.
money on judges and lawyers, and they would have said, "Oh, it's just dope. It's just cocaine. He's trying to make a movie here. Come on." You know how that is.
Mhm.
Um, and then Clarence isn't dead. He wakes up, Alabama pulls him up, and they scamper out of the hotel.
And
There's
she makes
still,
sure she grabs the bag of money
yes,
or
the
the little
money is important.
suitcase. Yeah. So that was good.
Um,
Because the whole time when I was thinking he was dead, I was thinking, okay, she's going to realize that the money's right there. She's going to grab it and she's going to get out because the other dweeb had already left.
yes.
Remember? As soon as she started crawling, he saw his way out and crawled out and went out the door and ran down the hallway so
He
that
got
he
out
wouldn't
before
know.
Alabama did.
Yeah. So yeah, out of the apartment.
Yeah.
While she was crawling on the ground to get to
I
because
thought
she's
it was
like,
funny that Rappaport throws the bag of cocaine up in the air, and that's what his distraction is for him to leave. And he
yeah.
scampers out. And there's a hostage situation down below,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to negotiate, and that turns into kind of a funny situation because the black cop is like hearing the Italian talk, they're wops. And I'm thinking to myself, man, they would never say that in a fucking 2008 movie,
That's what
much
I'm
less
saying.
a
There was so much
2022 movie.
dialogue that you would never see in a movie made now, right? As of right
Yeah,
now, the way things are set up for the Actors Guild or whatever,
yeah,
for you to be able to even be nominated for any kind of a certain awards, you can't use certain language, you can't use certain things. You have to have the right race, play that race. If they're gay, they have to be gay, really gay. If they've got a limb missing, it has to be really a limb missing. I mean, they're making it to
yeah.
where, it's not gonna be very good
It's
because
gonna ruin
just because
Hollywood.
someone's missing a hand or a leg doesn't mean they can act. You see, so it's gonna really put a damper on really good quality scripts to get the people you need to portray those characters because it's going to be really hard to fill these seats
Mhm.
with good actors when you're just going for skin tone or sexual orientation and stuff instead of quality acting experience. So we'll have to see
Um,
what we get.
Now in a 2000, well, the movie ends with Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater as Clarence in Alabama, and their little boy Elvis playing on a beach in Mexico.
Hmm.
And she narrates how the boy's name is Elvis.
Yeah, how she's talking about whether or not he would have made it or not, you know, and that because of the situation and the way he always talked about his inspiration and things like that for choices that he makes, that's why they named their son Elvis.
Yeah,
So I thought that was adorable, that whole scene. So, it showed that uh, the young couple that fell in love in one night, love
yeah,
at first sight, basically, ended up being able to have a family and having a child and living off the money that they stole. They were the ones that got away, that type of thing. I thought that was very romantic and, you know, what every young couple would want. They
and
have the money and get to go to an exotic place and, live their lives with each other.
yeah,
So it's a perfect ending. That's what I'm saying. That's why I thought it was great. That's why True Romance is a good name for it because basically, from the moment they met, they were in love and they did everything, to be together. Every single choice they made from that moment on was for the other one. You know, I mean, they constantly sacrificed for each other. And I loved that part of it for the story.
A little bit of trivia about this movie. In a 2011 interview at the American Film Institute, Gary Oldman was asked to name his favorite movie role. He chose two. First one was Lee Harvey Oswald in JFK. The second being Drexel Spivey in this movie. And when Gary Oldman got introduced to Tony Scott about the project for True Romance, Scott said he wouldn't really have a chance to read the script he'd been sent, and didn't really have an idea as to what the script would be finalized as because they're working on it. But you're a white guy, and you think you're black, and you're a killer pimp. Oldman laughs and immediately accepted the role.
I loved him in The Fifth Element.
Fifth Element, and actually Lost in Space, and of course The Professional.
I mean, I've loved him in every movie I've seen him in. I mean, even Batman.
Yeah.
I thought he's one of those actors that that we were talking about with a few of the other movies that we've had. There's just a handful of them, that no matter what role they're in, they portray it to such a degree that that leaves a mark on the movie because they're perfect for the part that they're in, and there's very few actors that are that way, and he's one of them, definitely. Like Gene Hackman, some of the other actors that we've talked about. But yeah, Gary Oldman is definitely one of them. He's going to be sorely missed when he's not around to be in movies anymore, because it's rare that you get that quality of actors.
He morphs. He goes from a movie role to movie role, and you don't see his character from his real life in his work. He absolutely takes on the new role, and I love that.
Yeah, he is that character. He is that person. That's what's so good about it, and he's just phenomenal at it.
Now, I really found a lot of the lore around his character kind of interesting, and Gary Oldman was talking back in the 2010s that he would love to have a movie prequel about Drexel Spivey, but he couldn't do it now. He'd have to find a new actor. And there would be plenty to choose from. There's plenty of people that could do that. But Quentin Tarantino was like, that could be an interesting movie because he just came off of Kill Bill Volume 2. Tarantino, overall, the hubbub, he named the Sicilian scene as one of the proudest moments. I had heard the whole speech about the Sicilians a long time ago from a black guy living in my house. One day I was talking with a friend who's Sicilian, and I just started telling him the speech. And I thought, man, this is a great scene. I got to remember this. Because the Sicilian guy was just pissed. And I can understand that. At the end of the filming, Patricia Arquette had this Ford Futara, and everything, if you know that car, you know it breaks down. And so Tony Scott gives her the purple Cadillac as a gift after shooting it wrapped up. So she got the car.
It was a nice car. I mean,
I love that car.
They don't make cars like that are made out of real steel. That it's like a tank. No matter what you do and who you hit, you're going to be able to keep going. Everyone else's cars are going to, like crumble driving down the road. But those older cars like that one is just really hard to find. And good classic car to keep working on and keeping up. The paint job and all that stuff. You could have a really good car that's going to last a lifetime because they were just so well made.
There should be a Kill Bill 3 coming up in a few years because the daughter of the one assassin that the mother had they have the fight and they have the pistol in the cereal box. That young girl should be going after the bride at any point in a movie.
Yeah.
Just
that might
saying.
Be good. It just depends. We'll have to wait and see how much wokeism is in it. So,
Dennis Hopper said that the only words that were improvised in the scene with Chris Walken were eggplant and cantaloupe. That was it. Everything else was scripted.
well, it was excellent. They did a very good job playing off each other. That was a very intense scene, and there
Yes.
wasn't really a lot of action in it. You know, it was all acting. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So that's a rarity too. It's getting to be more and more rare that the emotions of being up and down and intense of it just from acting. You know, not in dialogue, not action. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
fire or flood or a tornado or whatever. It was just two people talking to each other in dialogue, which is like 12 Angry Men. A lot of people don't realize the intense arguments and things that are going on in that, and it's all dialogue and action and facial expression, tone of voice, that type of thing. It makes the movie so good. you know you just don't see a lot of that anymore between the actors to get your blood pumping, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Was that scene between those two actors? That was really, really good and very memorable. I loved it, and the fight between the man and the woman in the hotel. I think that
You're
was
talking
just
about between our Alabama
yeah,
and
Patricia Arquette,
Patricia
and I
Arquette
can't remember what the
and James
actor's
Lewis
name is,
Jr.
but yeah, that was just a really intense, realistic fight to me. And those are my two standout scenes. And my comical part was the Brad Pitt smoking the bong that's made out of the honey bottle, which I thought was just really good and very remembering scene for me for that part, for that movie. That was
Yeah.
really good.
Um,
The movie was excellent. I mean, this was at least a 9. There was only a couple little things here and there, like the opening scene, like I said, that with her opening in her voiceover. If you've been in a voiceover, like with someone else's voice talking about how someone can just fall in love and it's sight unseen or the first sight, that type of thing, and changed it a little bit with not actually being personal about it being an overview of romance or something like that. And then it'd have been a little more intense on some of the scenes because you didn't realize that she was going to live, because just because it's a true romance and that two people fall in love, that doesn't mean they both make it. You know what I mean? So I would have, that's one thing I would have left out for that opening part, the voiceover at the beginning with her voice. So because to me it took away a little bit, because I knew she wasn't going to die, even though it was real intense and she was getting the shit beat out of her. I knew she wasn't going to die, so it took away a little bit. I wasn't as worried for her because of it.
this movie could be a prequel to The Crow.
Hmm. Yeah, when you said something about the other one about I'm trying to remember the other one that you said was like the second movie from this. They didn't have a kid
No,
in it, so it really wasn't the same two people
no,
carrying it on. The California or whatever it was called.
no. It was Natural Born Killers. They
Yeah,
split the two scripts apart, and they uh, they decided that they would have
going on
different
a murder
characters.
spree, because these two characters to me weren't really murderers. They were just young lovers that were in a bad situation. The
Hmm.
ones in the Natural Born Killers were two psychos that were just wanting to go out and like a new Bonnie and Clyde type characters. So to me, I'm glad they split that up, because to me, seeing them at the end as a husband and wife with their little boy on the beach, getting to live the life that everyone wants. When you fall in love, you want to be with that person and be their number one best friend and lover,
Yeah,
but also be able to carry on, as a parent, to find out what it's like to uh, raise a child with someone you love and watch your child grow together. I just thought that was so romantic, and I just loved it. And if I thought that they were going to go on and become some type of psychos and just start killing people for fun, it would take away from their character to me. So I enjoyed the way it ended, and how they ended up for the romance, for it to be called true romance. Because I mean, I don't know a single young girl growing up that wouldn't think that that would be so romantic to have a man that would do all those things for her. Like when she's crying and he's thinking that she's crying over the dead pimp or whatever, and then she says that was the most romantic thing anyone's ever done or whatever. And that's how I felt. I thought that was just a very romantic scene, you know, between two people that were madly in love with each other, you know, and that he had sacrificed, almost killed himself to for her honor or something, you know. You know, like when we were talking about that movie Excalibur, you know, the whole the intensity of it, how her heart was broken because her king wasn't going to fight for her honor. Remember? Yeah. And I said that it kind of broke her heart. It took a little bit of respect that she once had for him was gone now because Percival had to pull up the sword for her to defend her honor because her own husband wouldn't do it. And that's a heart wrenching for a woman to know that the one person that you're supposedly devoting your life to wouldn't defend you. You know, when someone was saying, well, she's a slut or, you know, or whatever, and he would just turn around and walk off. That would ruin your relationship, I think. At least in my eyes, it would. If he's not, if he says he loves me and he wants to, you know, have children with me, that's going to grow up and be his, you know, namesake, whatever. But I'm not worth defending, you know. I don't know. To me, that's just a crock of shit. I definitely wouldn't want to stay with somebody that I felt like wouldn't defend me or be there for me. I'm not talking about getting in a fist fight and beating a guy up. I'm talking about somebody was to say something horrible about me to my face in front of them and them just to not do anything. And I've seen so many people get divorced over that. The mother-in-law would say degrading things to the wife at Thanksgiving or Christmas or some other get together, and the husband just sits there and doesn't say anything to his mother and tell her to just, you know, shut up and stop talking about my wife that way or something, you know, defend the wife. Because if he's going to spend the rest of his life with, and most of those marriages like that do not last, because if the husband's not going to pick his wife or the wife pick her husband over everyone else, then it's not going to make it.
Nope.
Because you have to be willing to be there for the person that you're supposed to be spending the rest of your life with, that you give up everything for. And if you're not willing to do that, then you definitely shouldn't be married. Even though that probably would never come up in most relationships, something like that to happen. But I've seen a few relationships split up because the husband or the wife wouldn't defend the other one from the family, basically. They always just sat there or went in the other room or just wouldn't say anything. So it doesn't work.
I love this movie. This is one of my favorite films. I'll always have a copy of it available. I'm sorry we didn't watch it together. I tried getting a hold of you last night, and you were busy.
I know. I couldn't help it. I passed out. I was so tired. Because remember, I get up at 4:30. So today I've already had like extra doses of coffee. No, I didn't get to take a nap, but I popped me a whatever you call those little pills that gives you. Yeah, it's not really a no dose. It's like diet pill to give me some more energy, and then I drink a couple more cups of coffee, and it perked me right up. So now I have to have a few alcoholic beverages, and that'll bring me back down again after we're done. But yeah, it was. I wanted to watch it so bad, but I was like, I just can't. So when you told me to make sure I watched that better version of it, I jumped right in on Apple and signed up to rent it. So Beautiful. It was good. It was definitely worth it, and I enjoyed it a lot. I'm glad I got to watch it.
I want to know what you're pushing me into watching for next week.
Well, let me see if I can get it real quick. I'll be right back. I'm trying to remember where I put it.
I've got food right next to me. No, you're not watching me eat.
Darn it, where'd I put the movie? thought I had it right here. Darn it. Sorry. I thought I brought it over here and laid it down on my desk. Oh, there it is. I found it. Okay.
Shit, I stopped the white microphone. Nope, everybody watch me. Sorry about that. Sorry, guys. Haven't eaten yet.
Yeah, I haven't had dinner yet either. It's in there in the fridge. But the movie that I want to watch next week is going back towards the like a little bit towards the sci-fi genre.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Let me get in. Ooh.
Because I have the trilogy right here, but I want to watch the first one. It's called Pitch Black. Mm-hmm. I would like to watch it. I don't think we've watched any Vin Diesel movies, have we?
Not yet.
Yeah, so I'm ready.
I'm okay with this.
This is a good movie. It's got a lot of action in it, and I thought that I liked it. So I didn't know if you'd seen it before, but I really would like to watch it again.
Travis is just like, I just see boobs.
Oh. Yeah, I definitely have them. Sorry. Yay. But I was trying to dress a little bit like what she was wearing,
It worked out pretty well.
But she's blonde, so yeah. I wasn't going to dye my hair for it. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to do that.
It's okay.
I like my hair color. But yeah, that's the movie I'm ready to watch for next week. It'll be fun. A little bit of sci-fi. Futuristic.
Okay. Barrett's just recommended me on a recommendation I've already received, so I'm like, yeah, we're doing that one. I'm looking forward to this. Vin Diesel was the character that I patterned Elijah off of in my book series that I was writing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed writing those books because I could see Vin Diesel playing that character when I was doing these. And so I think next week we're going to have a really good banger of an episode.
Mm-hmm. It's a good movie.
I'm looking forward to it. I have nothing really more to add. I love this movie, True Romance. Thank you for watching it. And
I loved it. It was a great movie. It had everything in it. It had romance. It had action. It had some funny moments. It had it just had everything. I mean, it was really, really good movie. And I'd give it a 9 for sure. Because there was just a couple things that I didn't, like about it. Was the opening scene and the part where I could see some of the ways that they did the makeup or the squibs and things like that were a little bit off from the shooting part. But besides that, it was perfect, I thought.
Because of food, I'm going to end the video and want to appreciate everybody for stopping by tonight. We'll be back next week to review the movie Pitch Black, 1999, Vin Diesel, Radha Mitchell, one of my favorite actresses out of Hollywood. She's also in the movie Man on Fire.
Yeah, that was a good movie too.
Yes. All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you come back next week.
Forward to seeing all of you then. Until then, we will have the balcony closed.